Hi everyone, this is the Lockdown Lecture Series for Intermediate Cello, adapted from the Foundations course for cello and alios music and adapted for the classroom. This is lesson 2, let's jump into it. So last week we were introduced to the music we'll be working on, and we introduced our system for learning our material, particularly the accuracy portion where we learn, practice that on the first section, and you were assigned to learn all 4. Now, when my students come in and they have material work, essentially they were asked to learn several sections and do the accuracy work on them, I just give them a quick accuracy test where I turn on the metronome and have them play through it with the metronome, and then I turn the metronome off and have them play through it by memory. So let's do that. Let's just jump right in. I will play along with you guys. You guys get your instruments out, pause the video if you need to get ready, and I'll turn on the metronome and see if you can keep up. So if you were able to keep up, great work. You did your homework. If you didn't have the most perfect sound or anything like that, don't worry about it. Your main job is to make sure all the notes, rhythm, bowings are correct, and you could basically easily keep up. You can try it one more time and see if you got it by memory. So if you did, you're ready to move on to that next step. Once you learn a section, you can kind of deliver it well at the lesson. You can move on to, instead of practicing all these steps every time you practice, which you should when you are just learning a section. If I learn this the first day, when I go on to working on this the second day, I'm not going to stop practicing the A1 section. I'm going to go through all the steps again to make sure I double check my notes, double check my rhythm and bowings, and so on. Once you have learned all those, you can just review these last 2 steps. Should free up some time for you to work on quality work or go on to a new section. So let's say all your sections are ready for quality work, and now we're ready to just dive into it. So let's take a look at all of our steps and elements of quality work. So the first is intonation. We mark that first in priority because if your intonation is not there, doesn't matter what else you do, if you play with the best sound, vibrato, and movement, not going to sound good. So the way we will approach intonation at this stage in our intermediate development is we simply ask ourselves, when I play something at full tempo, does it sound offensively out of tune? I know that sounds like a very simplistic way to look at it, but I should clarify our standards. When you're beginners, like when I work with beginners, I just want to make sure that everyone's finger is generally going in the right place. If you're going to play D, E, F sharp, G, excuse me. I want, when I put my third finger, I want it to sound like F sharp. If it's a little low, for a beginner, it's not the end of the world. Probably won't stop them for every time they do that. If they put their third finger so low it sounds like D2, then that just sounds like a wrong note. I will stop a beginner every time they do that. As an intermediate player, if you're playing and you think it doesn't sound out of tune, maybe it doesn't sound like super in tune, but it doesn't sound out of tune, that's a good standard for now. You can essentially, every time you work on your notes and you learn a section, try to learn it with the best accurate or quality that you can. But if you have something like this, intonation for what we need right now, you might have noticed that when I shifted down to the G, I didn't shift down to the same G I played before. I was a little flat. When I played my third finger, I put it too close, a little bit too low for a B flat. But it wasn't immediately offensive, and for now, that's fine. If you want to work more detailed on your intonation, we'll go over that a little bit later. So as long as we can say, when I play it kind of in normal tempo, like when I just did my accuracy check, it sounded not out of tune. We're good for now. I know it's kind of a controversial stance on intonation, but the truth is that we got to work on everything in its time. You know, if we nitpicked intonation right now, we would be stuck on it for a long time, and we wouldn't get to enjoy playing the piece. We will learn higher levels of intonation later. If we're moving on to our sound, the way we work on our sound and articulation, it's important to consider both, because if you're working on a section where you have to play off the string or with staccato, and of course you practice your sound with like long bows and vibrato, and then you have to like, oh wait, I have to play short notes. You have to redo everything anyway. So we want to make sure we're working on it with the right articulation. In this piece, everything is just long bows, so you know, like long, smooth sound, so that's okay. The way we work on it is you essentially play it for yourself from memory and listen, and have to ask yourself objectively every time, what don't I like? What can I improve? What could be better? Therefore, I'm going to play it now, kind of demonstrate a couple things, and this is what you can be doing working on it at home. So. So I might notice that, scoot back a little bit so you guys can see me better. I might notice that, you know, a few notes into it, my contact point moved almost all the way down to the bridge. That didn't make very good sound. I should have a good contact point, so maybe that's something I focus on. Here, I didn't use much bow on this small quarter note bow, and now I don't have enough bow for this note. So I'm choking my sound, so I might want to work on my bow distribution, make sure I get nice long bows on everything. Now once you improve your sound, you think, well, I've improved it as much as I can for today. I think, you know, I've sort of improved my contact point. You maybe also want to watch out for smooth bow changes. Make sure your pressure is good, that you're not pressing in too hard, getting crunchy sound. Then you may move on to the next step. One important thing to remember as you work on each quality thing is that you shouldn't be working on the same thing for long. So if, for example, in 1 week, I played, I'm like, oh, I need to work on my contact point, and 4 weeks later, I'm still working on my contact point, I'm doing something wrong. Either I'm just not paying attention, you know, if I'm working on my contact point, it should get better. I should make my contact point better every time I play. Eventually, it just will get better. If it's better, why am I still focusing on it? I probably have other weaknesses. So you may be just not listening. And the other problem is that maybe you're not improving it. You know, if you noticed you have a bad contact point, fix it. Don't let yourself get away with doing it wrong. If you notice something's wrong and you can fix it, do it. Like if you can play well, why would you let yourself play poorly? You know, keep that sort of growth mindset all the time. If you're not sure how to improve something, great question for your teacher. So, but let's say I improve my sound, and I'm now, and maybe I'll do like 3, 4, 5 tries, just really working on my sound, and I think, okay, I think I got it better for today. I'm ready for the next step. So now we take a look at vibrato. So for vibrato, we want to, like vibrato will be more or less important in some pieces. In fast pieces, it will not be so important. This is a slow piece. It is very important in this piece. It is important that we find the right kind of vibrato. So because it's so important in this piece, we'll learn our very first drilling technique. vibrato conditioning, and that's basically where we just take every note, turn it into a whole note, and those squiggly lines right there are not funny eyebrows. It's just whole notes with vibrato on top of them, and you're just going to vibrate every note until you feel like you have the right quality vibrato for everything. You kind of, again, just like in your sound, you're going to listen to how you play, how your vibrato's going, and think critically there. So, basically just like this. Vibrato is essentially the color, it's what colors your sound. It's not the overall shape of your playing. The shape of your music is created by the sound quality itself. Your vibrato colors it, so you have to think, do I want wider vibrato? Do I want more intense vibrato? My vibrato sounds like this. Maybe I need a little bit more intensity in my vibrato. If it sounds like this, maybe I need to back it off a little bit. Maybe it needs to be wider. Maybe my fourth finger needs a little bit more attention, you know. A few extra bows on your fourth fingers. And while you're working on your vibrato, you want to make sure your sound stays good. So once you've put it all together with vibrato, like you kind of decided you have the right sound, now you add the bowings back in. And then you ask yourself, is there anything else I would improve about the vibrato? Maybe my sound started to disintegrate. You know, maybe I need to make sure, because remember, all of our quality things are cumulative. You can't work on vibrato and let your sound fall apart. If it's in tune, keep it in tune. If your sound articulation are good, keep your sound good. It takes twice as much concentration every time you add a step. Now lastly, if all of those things are in good shape, you're going to add some movement. That is something you have to practice. If you don't practice it, it will not be good. I'm sure we've all maybe seen people play and you close your eyes and think, wow, they sound really good. And you open your eyes and you think, why do they look like a robot? So it's part of our visual presentation. When we play, we tell a story, we express something. And what we do visually is definitely a part of that. So the fundamentals of kind of movement on the cello are, we want our movement to support our bow movement. So I know I'm on a swivel chair because that's where I teach from. You guys will not be on a swivel chair. I will try not to make my chair swivel. With our three contact points, we want to be able to pivot a little bit, right? Just want our cello to be able to follow our bow a little bit. It basically means that the face of the cello will rotate with us. Okay, so just I pivot off the heels of my feet, and I want all of the joints of my body to be capable of movement. I don't want my feet locked on the ground. I don't want my knees locked. I don't want my hips locked on my seat. I want everything able to fluidly move a little bit. And so essentially, when I play with movement, I want to move a lot for places with, you know, big sound. And I'm going to move a little bit for places with small sound. Something like this. I will play the first two sections to give you guys some ideas. So there we go. I want my movement to support my playing, and that's it. That's kind of how you put stuff together. You practice all these quality things as if they're notes that you have to learn. You practice them until you're good at them. Work on your movement in front of a mirror. You will know when you're moving the way that you like. You know, everyone has a little bit of their own style, and if you work on your movement, you look at yourself in the mirror and you think, I like what I see. You will keep doing it. So homework is, first of all, to learn all the 4 sections with quality work, to do quality work on sections A1 through A4. Other homework is to do the accuracy work for the B sections. So you have to learn this section to here. So watch out, you go back onto the D string right here, okay? So Roman numeral 2 doesn't mean second position, it means you're on the second string, which is your D string. As always, be careful with all of your fingerings and bowings. Good news, the B2 section is exactly the same as A4, so you know it already. If you want to get a little bit of a head start, you can do some quality work on the B sections as well. So that's it, homework, quality work for the A sections, and accuracy work for the B sections. Let's see how you guys do when you're on your accuracy checks next week. All right, excellent work. I will see you guys at the next lesson.